As you can see, things are still hanging on into October for us in Zone 5. We are here in Massachusetts, so we do have a shorter season overall than a lot of the rest of the country, but you know, you do things right, you can still push things late into the season. So I just wanted to take you guys around, show you what we have coming in still. Our peppers were really late this year, so we got this yellow Hungarian pepper, I forget the name of that guy. We got this Lesia here that is pretty much ripe and ready to go. We should probably eat that. Another one behind it. You can see the plants themselves aren't very big this year. We have some tomatoes coming in, cherry tomatoes over here. This is called Orange Peruche. This is actually a sucker that we pruned off of a plant earlier in the season, and we just stuck it in the ground because it looked good and it rooted, and here it is as a successional crop for us. Still giving us cherry tomatoes, and we're practically mid-October, so pretty good that we haven't gotten a frost yet here. It's letting us do some cool stuff. Got some more late peppers over here. These are funny ones called corbachis. Probably pick some of those today. They're a little seedy, but you can kind of just eat the seeds in these. It's not really a big deal. Got some Chiji Masai here. You may remember this from earlier in the year. It's one of the first things that we grow. Just a nice leafy green that does pretty well. Another pepper coming in late. We have sown some radishes, and they are a pretty quick one called French breakfast. So we got another round of radishes coming in into the fall. These guys can probably take a little bit of cold, but they're actually ready to pick now, so maybe we should do that. We got a successional squash plant over here next to it. It's called Astia. It's not particularly tasty, but it's pretty tasty. And more importantly, it's powdery mildew resistant and grows really quick. So planted these about a month and a half ago, maybe coming up on 2 months ago, as a successional squash to try to get some late into the season. The plan was always that that plant would get killed off by the frost. Over here we have an original squash plant that is still hanging on. You might remember this guy from other videos. It's produced some pretty big hog squash. Still cranking out these little chiffons. This one's like two-tone, so that's kind of neat. Tons of amaranth. I don't know if this will turn to seed and be more useful to us other than cosmetically. Kind of running out of time. You can see a lot of it in the yard has blown over from various windstorms, but that's how it goes sometimes. Pole beans have been the star of the show here at the Garden by the Brook. We have frozen bags and bags and bags of these guys, and you can see we still have flowers coming in. Got a couple different varieties here. This one's called Rattlesnake. It's very, very tasty, very prolific. Got this other purple one here. Those are called Blauhild. They make really nice purple beans. The ones coming in are starting to look a little runty, come in a lot slower as things get colder, but they're still producing pretty well for us. And we just picked, oh man, we just froze 3 quart bags of them the other night. And over here we have a bunch of marigolds that kind of didn't do all that much in terms of flowers until later in the season, and now they are just beautiful and kind of taken over. You can see we got some coming in underneath this blush tomato here. That's one of my favorites. It's been kind of a tough year for tomatoes with all the rain, lack of sun on a lot of days. We even had the wildfire situation causing a lot of extra smoke. See, we got a bunch of tomatoes here that are just kind of falling down. We're starting to forget about them. They're starting to look not so good. But man, we should probably actually pick a bunch of these up. They look good. Back in the corner of the garden, I got this squash plant that just refuses to die. It's pretty good at going late into the season. This one is doing just that. It's called Benning's Green Tint. It's a scallop squash. Really old genetics from what I understand, an old heirloom, and they are very prolific. This one had a stressed life, but is finding a way to make me little fruits still, so thanks, bud. Our winning tomato this year was definitely these Chef's Choice Golds. They were the soonest, they are the latest, and they were the most disease resistant for us this season. You can see we still got these tomatoes coming in, and it's October, so it took a while to really start getting a lot of them, but they are producing late into the season, so I gotta give them credit there. So we got one more pumpkin that we haven't harvested yet. We have a ton of pumpkins that we did harvest. Maybe not a ton, maybe more like 10 or so. I'm gonna put a video up on our pumpkin harvest pretty soon. That happened a couple weeks back, but I've been slow to process the footage. Yada yada, excuses, excuses. Growing above that are all these blush tomatoes. You can see we have one plant that's going kind of nuts late into the season here and just setting a bunch more fruits. Look at that cluster. A lot of crispy leaves that died off from the blight. I'll be honest, I mean, just haven't had the time to prune these up. I did earlier in the season, but they've gone away from me a bit. So a lot of dead plant material hanging around, but these guys have been up in the air in the sunlight and making beautiful tomatoes for us. The other one there's another orange Peruche. It's very similar to sun gold if you've ever grown that. I actually trained one tomato plant to go up into this plum tree this year. Yeah, it kind of went up and collapsed and is falling back down here, but it seems to like it. Got some other fall greens in here. Got some Swishard that's doing pretty well here into the fall. Got another Astia zucchini plant here that's made a couple of small ones for us so far. Over in this bed we have a bunch of cabbages that we planted late into the season, and they got kind of chewed up by slugs and caterpillars, but we did start treating them, and they do have some nice new leaves coming in toward the middle. That is a red dragon cabbage. It's the one that's really good for kimchi if you're into that. A little marigold in this bed, and this is a scarlet kale that has a similar story to those cabbages where it got chewed, but it's fighting the good fight. So there you go, that's a quick tour of what is hanging on late into the season for us. I didn't really mention these carrots coming in earlier. That's because I doubt they'll do what they need to do in time to make a nice big root. Carrots have been tough for us, but anyhow, thanks for joining us today. Hope to see you again next time.